Hello, we are live on System.Debug. Tonight we are going to be talking about communication amongst team members, and that includes pitfalls, things we found that work, tools, and etc. on System.Debug.
So classy.
The acoustic bump just for RJ.
Dude, I don't know what it is about it. It's just so much more classy than the other one. It makes me feel like I'm on like an old-timey western or maybe This Old House. Which I love.
I don't know, man. Show. It makes me feel like I'm sitting around a campfire. That's what I kind of feel.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. It's real woodsy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Absolutely.
That's the whole reason I have a guitar, is just so I could play it around the campfire. And yeah.
Just the
bump. Now I wrote the bump.
The bump.
Oh, he just plays the bump. He just plays the bump around the campfire. And everyone's like, what's that from? I know that from somewhere.
I've heard that somewhere. Yeah. So
it's probably because they subscribed.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think my dream one day is just to be sitting like, at a campground somewhere and then play that and just have somebody come up and go, oh, "That's you?" And then that was how I know I arrived. That would be really cool.
So.
Anyway, yeah, sup, that's me. So, yes, tonight, communication. And I believe this came about through a discussion that we were actually having today amongst ourselves about how we had some communication stuff happening. So I'm going to actually hand this over to Megan for a moment to put her on the spot and talk to us about communication, because I know that you kind of have like a distributed team, right? And it's a number of people. It's not like you're in an office anywhere. So what are your issues that you have to overcome and all that kind of stuff, and how do you handle them, etc.?
Yeah. So I've been doing this remote thing for quite some time. And, it's one thing where you can either do it really, really well, or it can go horribly, horribly wrong. And, it's one of those things where, I think that communication that's going on with my team right now, I think we're doing like a really stellar job, and everybody can always improve though. But I think that there are other times in the past, though, where I have felt like I was isolated on an island being remote. And that was really just quite traumatic. And it led me to just like sit there for like weeks on end, all by myself in my house with nobody to talk to, except for maybe like an update here or there on a JIRA ticket, but I never actually got on the phone. And it was so weird, like to go so long without ever talking to anyone. But it's one of those things where you've got to find this right balance between actually talking with people and, having the right tools and making sure that you're communicating in the right places and in the right ways. And one of those that I think that everybody, always struggles with is, what is the right place to be communicating and when? Especially because everybody gets so many different tools, because it's really cool to try new stuff. I love to try new stuff, and then I like to share new stuff. And then, of course, you have your tools, your client has their tools. Maybe perhaps for this one project, you're using one thing, but on your other project, you're using something else. And then at that point in time, it becomes very difficult to figure out, where you're supposed to be tracking what. So coming up with a consistent way to make sure that you're tracking things and to make sure that you have good communication with your team becomes so vital at that point in time. Because you can't be strictly dependent upon, an application to make sure that the people are getting your information. And that's where that island feeling comes into play. And so that's where it's that you have to pick up the phone. And you can't just sit there and wonder, and you can't just wait, 20 hours or a week or 3 weeks for somebody to respond to something. It's so much easier to just reach out to somebody. And that took me a long time to learn. I have to say, especially to be able to just reach out and tell somebody I don't know something or I need help, rather than sit there and struggle for hours. because that's definitely something that I do still find myself guilty of. But at the same time, it's one of those where I am working very hard to get out of that habit and to make sure that when I start getting into that spinning mode, that I'm raising my hand and asking for help as soon as I can.
Mhm.
And and I know RJ, you're in consulting also. So how does I'm guessing you have a very similar experience here.
Yeah, so that's true. I am in consulting. That's a fact about me.
Yes.
And if we're listing facts, that's the only one that I have. But yeah, I don't work remote as much as you do. I know that there is opportunity for that kind of thing, kind of elsewhere. And my hair looks absolutely ferocious right now. But I usually work on site. A lot of our stuff is on site with the clients. So I don't always have that same kind of, it's not really a separation, but you know what I'm talking about? That kind of, that feeling of separation, because I go to the client sites, we're talking to the clients face to face most of the time. We're interacting with their PMs, we're interacting with all their management, we're interacting with all their developers, their entire engineering staff across the board, like UI, UX, like everybody. And we're all usually kind of gathering in a room in person. So it's a little bit easier, I think, on my side of the consulting world, you could say.
Okay.
And it's a model that works for some people, and just like for you, like it's very easy for you, and I know you. It's very easy for you to kind of be the person that you are and have these wonderful, awesome interactions with people, even though you might be thousands of miles apart. For some people, I'm sure that is kind of scary for them to do. I know even when I started doing like 2 days a week remote in other jobs, I was like, ooh, I'm a little scared here. So it is a little bit tough. It is a little bit scary, but don't be afraid of it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've largely been remote for 5 years now, although for like 3 of those, I was an island of one. And
Oh,
then
wow.
now since joining .org, the majority of our team, we're all over the country. I do happen to have some people that are close by, and occasionally to kind of mitigate that living on an island feeling, we do arrange like, hey, let's try to work one day a month from a coffee shop together. So we will attempt to do that when our schedules allow and stuff like that. But yes, keeping in that constant loop. And I will say I am 100% guilty of not picking up the phone, but I am a huge instant messenger or, chat kind of person. So, we will use the Google chats. We will use Quip. We will use, in some cases it used to be Slack, not inside of Salesforce, but when I was at other places, it would jump into a Slack channel, and there would be, clients that have their own Slack channels. And then now I've got like the Ohana Slack channel that I was in, and then I had all the Salesforce related Slack
Oh, yeah.
channels, and then the MVP, and now you had tons of Slack channels that were. So not only did you have all these different tools that we were using, but then all these different places within one tool that you were going, which got to be really crazy. So I have to say nothing against Slack, but I'm glad that that's not as much part of my day-to-day business communication anymore. But neither is email either. I find that I'm putting like everything we do nowadays in Quip chats and things like that, persistent chat that you can go back to. So I guess Slack kind of is that way too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so easy to miss something in email. If you're,
Yes.
now if you're working for an organization that also has Chatter, and they heavily use Chatter and they throw stuff in Chatter. So now you've got Chatter and Quip and Google Docs and all these different places to communicate with. So
And Chatter might email you.
So that's why That's why I love things like Jira and putting the things on the actual ticket instead of emailing about it. That way you can keep track of it in one place and everybody can see it and nobody all of a sudden gets siloed. It just makes the project so much easier to manage. And that transparency just makes everybody happier and aware of the end result. It makes things go so smooth. It just makes everything coast along. Email is very little a part of my life compared to how it was before too, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I guess there's two schools of thought. Some people like email me with like an urgent tag. Other people like chat. And I'm curious to hear what other people think. Like I tend to be more responsive to somebody if I get an instant message from them. If I get an email, if it's an email, it's like, I want to let you know this is here. Take your time to respond versus if this is chat. Hey, I'd like to just ping something really quick for you. At least that's how I feel it is. And I know not everybody's like that. There are some folks that I've worked with in the past where they just kind of treat chat as this asynchronous thing. Well, they'll respond to it. It may be 3 or 4 hours later, may not be, whatever. If it's urgent, text, pick up the phone, whatever. So I guess maybe I just don't have to deal with that many urgent issues because I'm never on the phone. But outside of that, I'm just curious how other people view that or how you all view it.
So I can give you a good divide because I kind of work for two companies right now, right? I work for Slalom and I work for Home Depot through Slalom, right? So, and hopefully they're okay with me saying that. But either way, so internally,
If
not, I know some people hiring.
If you hate me right now,
how you doing?
Yeah. I know some people who are hiring. Cool. So I guess externally or whatever you call it, in our local Slalom chat, we have Teams, we have email, but email's kind of that like just formal, like, hey, I'd like to invite you to this presentation. I'm doing this talk. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. We got a club, whatever. And then also, of course, urgent emails that go out through there are all high pri, right? And you get the little bing. But we're not required, as far as I know, to have high prize also text us, right? Where in the other land, they want high prize answered within 30 minutes, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. So it's best that when you get a high prize to also have it ping you on a text and say, hey, you got a high prize from so-and-so. You should probably go check your email. So that's nice. And then we also have Slack over there as well, where as in Slalom, we have Teams. In both of those applications, I'm fairly certain you can just @channel or @here. So you can hit the whole channel up and alert everyone. You can hit whoever is logged in like and active at that time with the @here, at least on Slack. And a lot of people in Slalom, everyone's pretty cool with it because nobody's really heavily using it. But at other companies, people will just throw @channel all over the place just for simple questions too that can totally wait. They're like, @channel, hey, what's everyone doing tomorrow for lunch? It's like, dude, it's midnight. Like,
yeah,
leave me alone. I'll talk to you in the morning about lunch. Like, let me do what I'm doing. But yeah, so it's definitely different, and there's different levels of, I guess, urgency, and nothing, as far as I've seen so far at Slalom, is like overwhelmingly so urgent that it needs immediate attention. Whereas, again, for the clients, they need a little bit more attention. So we're there and we're helping them kind of mitigate whatever damages are happening or whatever the situation may be. So it's a little bit different there too. However, just to defend Slack a little bit, Ryan, I love the fact that you can log in to your single username on Slack and then just throw every single little thing in there. Like, oh, here's my chat for this. Here's my chat for this. Here's my room for this. Here's my room for that. Love that. So I don't have to have 45 different logins.
No, I totally agree. And I definitely appreciate what Slack does. It's just now that I've moved over to Quip from that world, don't get me wrong, Quip has its things that drive me nuts too, but I like the fact that Quip, like, it gives you the interactive document creation and collaboration along with chat rooms, along with private chats, along with everybody else's documents and stuff. I really like it. For me, it was a little easier to use, cleaner to use than Slack, but don't get me wrong. I mean, I absolutely loved Slack when it came out. I shouldn't say right when it came out, because I was like, wait, I have IRC, dude. Like, why do I need this? Why do I need this? I have IRC. Went crankly away to my VI terminal and everything. But no, once we finally got onto it, and everybody else was adopting it, I got into that too. And I'm sure if we didn't have Quip at work, we would probably be using something Slack-esque if it wasn't be Slack already, you know. So definitely like the tools to be able to stay in touch and keep in touch and kind of prevent that I'm lost on an island feeling. One thing that I feel is lacking, and I don't know if anybody else has found a tool for this, and I would love to hear it. So when developers get together, a lot of times we have need to use a whiteboard, right? So I need to draw some stuff on a marker and whatever. Have either of you or anybody out there listening, you know, have you found a tool that works for you? I know I had somebody refer one to me the other day, and I just really haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but there's something about being able to take that marker and have that interactive discussion there and have everybody see what you're seeing. And I find like I think that would be hard to translate to a mouse. I'm going to draw a circle with a mouse and a line, and you know what I mean? I'm just curious if anybody's found tools that they like using for that.
So sometimes I connect my iPad to a meeting, and then I just draw my iPad with the pen.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I fully support that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll just log in twice. Yeah.
So what software are you guys using for that though? Is that like just a go-to meeting and then you're firing up and sharing that screen, or what?
Or you whatever web conferencing, and then it's just my annotate screen.
Oh, I got you. All right. Yeah. I smell what you're cooking now. Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, I bring up notes if I just want to write on paper and like draw. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally into like I want to draw circles and draw lines and diagrams and flow charts and stuff, but I want everybody to be able to see like this is what I'm
you could just bring up notes, so then you could like print it out, throw it into a document, send it out to everybody at the end. Yeah.
And a couple of those will actually let you what's that called? AirPlay to a larger TV.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Problem solved. I'm done.
Just their iPad.
Yeah.
Mind blown, man.
Pretty much whatever you like. Go see if it has the ability to AirPlay, and if it does, you're pretty much set. And then, like Megan said, annotations are like, oh man, so nice.
Oh, nice. Really quick, I wanted to jump back to one of those super cool tools. One thing that we are using on our project right now is we're using WhatsApp for our team, and we have just found it to be awesome. Well, I have found it to be awesome because I can call anybody at any time because it's just like texting, but we can also be in the big group and, you know, track everything. So I've just found it to be fantastic. And that way, actually, I told one of my new coworkers that I would be harassing him on the show today. That way I can call Jeffrey at any point in time that I need to. And it's just fantastic.
Love it.
So, yes, it's just wonderful. And I know he loves the sound of my voice, calling him like 20 times a day because he's calling me back. So, yeah.
And you
call him back, you know?
And you said that was WhatsApp?
Yeah, WhatsApp. And it's great because you can connect to international numbers too without it being like texting international or calling international. So that way when you have a global team, it totally works.
I like that idea too. That works completely well. I had another question, but I completely blanked. So somebody please fill the dead air while I think of that question because I guess I was totally not expecting to hear WhatsApp as like a business solution. I think no, that's totally fine. Because I don't think of using stuff like that. So go ahead.
Well, I guess going along with more tools, the remote thing that I really like is I really like using Google Docs. I'm a huge fan of Word as well, but one thing that drives me crazy is when I rename the document with the name and date afterward, when Word has like built-in versioning, when you could just save it and then we could go back to the previous version. But by changing the name, we now have different documents we have to track instead of saving them all for the versions. So that's why I like Google Docs, because then I can just see all my versions in one document. I don't know if anybody else likes versioning. Yeah.
I like Google Docs. I don't think I've touched, short of a minor few documents or when somebody would send me something that was a Google Doc, I don't think I've touched a Microsoft word processing / spreadsheet / whatever in ages.
Really?
In ages, yeah. Oh. I mean, short, like I said, short of like download this, whatever and view it, yeah, sure, I'll jump in and view it. And generally, if somebody sending me a spreadsheet, it's because they want me to import it somewhere. I'll export that to a CSV and do my thing, right? And I don't ever bother with like Excel or Doc or anything like that. That's just, I don't know. Go ahead.
I was going to say we've got a question for Megan, but sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were finishing up, Ryan.
Oh no, that's I think I was just kind of rambling, which I tend to do.
Intentionally destroyed that cue for me. So Mark wants to know, hey Megan, why Google Docs over Quip? Because he's saying Quip has versioning. I have to be honest, I've never used Quip, so I don't know.
It's the amount of functionality that goes along with it. For talking about actual word processing. I mean, Quip's great for like keeping notes, but it's not something that I could actually do like a technical document or a requirements document and that would be, a full document. I couldn't actually do like an entire design document in there, or I couldn't build out anything much more than a list or a light document. But yeah, it's just the amount of functionality that's available. It's not meant to be a heavy tool. Right, Ryan?
Well, I don't know, because I was about to kind of disagree a little bit. Because, I mean, I do a lot of technical documentation in Quip. But
yeah.
I like that it's very light in the options that you get. Now, that said,
okay,
there are times where I'm like, oh, I sure would like to be able to have X, Y, or Z, right? And we don't have that yet. But I really do like, if I have a heading, I've got 3 options for headings: large heading, medium heading, small heading, right? And then I've got bullets and, numbers, and then I can do some italicize and stuff like that. You can always insert images and things like that. You can also embed, it's kind of got like a spreadsheet-ish thing you can put in there, which I hate reading spreadsheets, so I rarely will ever do that. But I actually like Quip just because for me it feels like a cleaner interface, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's more white spacey. It's more, I don't know. It's like the art side of me coming out, I guess, that I really appreciate that. But I like that. You have the ongoing conversation that Google Docs also has when you plus somebody or whatever and highlight and comment. We've got that in Quip. Quip feels a bit snappier for me as well. But that said, we still have a number of people on our team that still do a lot of stuff in Google Docs, which is another kind of along the lines of, yet another tool to go looking for something in, right? So I wish we would pick one most of the time, and I think for a large part, a lot of us have, but there's still, some outliers that are, we created a Google Doc, et cetera, or a Google form here, which I understand. So,
and a part of it is too, the availability. Anybody can use Google Docs. Anybody. Not every single person can just go and use Quip.
Exactly.
So that's part of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Availability, I mean, you don't have the licensing or anything like that, and that's obviously that's not an issue where I work, obviously, right? Because we kind of own it. But it's I've really taken to it. At first, I didn't think I would, and when it first came out, when I was as a customer and going to the conferences and seeing, hey, we're Quip, I was like, what do you have that Google Docs doesn't have or whatever? But now that I'm in and using it on a daily basis, a large portion of my time is spent inside of Quip, and I absolutely love it.
And it's kind of like how I still don't use Google Sheets very much. I usually use Microsoft Excel. Google Sheets will usually end up freezing with the amount of data that I'm working with. So
wow.
I do a lot of my file work in Microsoft Excel instead. Data Queen. Or using with like Power BI with Microsoft Excel. So just one of those.
I may have to make a special request to Apex and Limits to write a parody called Data Queen instead of Dancing Queen. You've heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. I know Rachel's out there somewhere. Rachel, if you're listening, you're probably not watching right now. But if you are, that one's on the docket.
Or when you do.
I will make her listen to this. I will make her listen to this one.
Wow. Forceful.
Yeah. You gotta go listen to this. We got a new parody. Sorry. Cool. Let's see. I'm reading our notes here, but it's on the further screen. So you use Jira, calls, texting. Work-life balance is an interesting one. What do you do in the way to ensure that you're not always checking this thing, right?
Yeah.
Even when you're watching Walking Dead.
I put mine on silent. What about you?
I leave mine in the basement.
You just leave it. Leave it.
Yeah. I mean, not always.
I couldn't do that.
But
like, not that far away. How far is your basement from you?
Miles.
It's about 13 stairs down. So, yeah. 13 or 14 steps. And then way in the back room. I mean, I have my... okay, so I should clarify, though. I have two phones. I have my personal one, and then I have my work one. But generally, right around 5:30, 6 o'clock, this thing sits right at my desk. So
that's fair.
Yeah. Try to stay out of that.
Well, if I had two phones, that would be a totally different story.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it was all on my personal phone, then it would be with me all the time, which is not the number one reason, but probably the number two reason that I chose not to use my personal device for work, is so that I could completely keep the two separate, right? To make sure I still get that work-life balance. Because if I had that, like if I got a message that somebody was talking to me in Quip and it was on my personal phone, I would feel, I won't say obligated, but I'm one of those people like, oh, there's a message there and I'm not going to leave it sit there unanswered. I'm going to go answer it, right? And if it was on my personal phone, I absolutely would feel that. And then I would probably get a look from the family being like, why are you doing work? It's 9 o'clock at night, right? So yeah, that's one of the reasons why, and how I help manage the personal time versus not personal time, is I have two separate devices for that. So work-life balance is very important to me.
Well, that's one of those things about, this is actually turning more into like a tool / work-life balance / remote call. But yeah, so that's one of those things where it's, oh man, I just had a train of thought. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Well, what did you just say, Ryan? You were talking about
separating the work-life balance because I have two different devices.
Oh, yeah, it's about drawing boundaries. And that's where I was kind of going with the remote thing. So it's one of those where, when you work from home, one of the big things that a lot of people who try working from home decide, it's one thing where I can't do it. It's because it's very difficult to decide, this is the time that I am working, and all I'm going to do during this time is focus on this. And at this time, I am going to stop. And this is the time that I'm going to start again. But it's one of those where setting those boundaries and those limits. Yeah, so of course, there are times when you may have to respond outside of those times. Same thing could happen to you where you pushing out. But it's setting those boundaries and making sure that you follow through with them. But yeah.
So then go ahead, sorry.
Takes a lot of discipline. Yeah.
I was just going to say that because I've tried stuff like that, and this kind of leads to my next question, because I've had people make this suggestion and I have just never been any good at it, and that is actually blocking out time on your calendar, right, to do that kind of stuff. I need to be heads down looking at this multi-file pull request. I need to block this out because it's been sitting out there for 2 weeks. I need to get after it. Block it out, right? And that's a form of communicating to your other folks who are trying to add you to stuff like, hey, I'm untouchable right now, right? So it's kind of like a passive way to communicate, right? So updating your calendar, I was curious if you were, taking advantage of those kinds of things too, where don't bother me at this time because this is I'm checking up on chatter posts from 8 to 8:30, etc.
I'm a big fan of doing that, and I think that if you're more clear than just heads down time, people are going to be more respectful of that block too. If you actually say working on, this ticket or working on this component rather than just heads down for 4 hours, you just say heads down for 4 hours. I have a feeling that, most of the time that's when people end up pinging you during that heads down time. But if you actually block off 4 hours to work on a specific component and put that on your calendar, people are far less likely to bother you because they know that you're focused on something. And I think that's a great way to be more clear. in your communication. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely convinced me because we're getting some chats on that too. It was like blocking communication, absolutely do that. Somebody else saying, yeah, it takes some discipline. Yeah, Mike White is saying it takes discipline to get started, but he's found and the payoff to be worth the trouble in the long run. And I can totally see that. I guess that's part of me like going against all of my service-oriented, people-pleasing ways, which I know is something that's me, and I got to work on that. I think actually Chris Duarte wrote a great blog on that kind of thing before about like, you know, it's okay to, you know, put your hand up and wait a minute, you know, I can't handle this right now, or don't send this to me right now. And I've got to get better at that myself, but y'all are convincing me very well.
So real quick on that topic, a thing that I have found to be extremely helpful in that arena is, so first, just a quick shot of history. I tried to do that once and I failed spectacularly. I was like, I need to block out some time, like, because I'm at client sites and I'm talking to people pretty much all day that I'm there, and they're asking questions because I've been in the biz a while, I've been doing stuff. They have a question, they have a problem, they might be junior, they might want help, they might want to know something about careers or how to advance, or just pretty much anything. Any question you can imagine, I've been asked. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to block out time, right? I'm going to take, here's my pre-lunch half hour for my emails, here's my post-lunch half hour for this other thing, and here's an hour at the end of the day that I need to just wrap everything up and make sure I put a pretty little bow on everything. Failed. Spectacularly failed, right? So I don't know why I even tried this, but I was like, what if I just give myself half or a quarter of that amount of time for each thing? Will I not goof around for the time that I don't actually need to be doing the thing? You know what I'm saying? So like if I had a half hour for emails, I would read an email and then I'd kind of like goof off and go to like Newegg and look at a computer part and then, you know, like that kind of stuff. But if I gave myself 10 minutes and I said, okay, I got to knock these emails out. I have 10 minutes, go. And I have the nice thing is any kind of piece of electronics, Apple Watch, yep, right. You just tell Siri to do whatever the heck you need her to do, and she'll do it. So I tell her to put on a timer for 7 minutes, and I just blast through my email. No fooling around, no talking to anybody. I throw it on the calendar. Siri does that too. Throw it on my calendar. 7 minutes, email, done. And I just plow through my email as fast as I possibly can while also reading anything that's really, really important. So try to time box your stuff into even smaller, just like restrict it as much as you can. This may or may not work for you because everyone's different, but try this. Try to restrict it as much as you possibly can. And yes, Jared, that does sound like a Pomodoro, but I still haven't like actually read anything about the whole Pomodoro timer thing other than to make actual Pomodoro sauce. But the point being, like, you just jam it down into the smallest possible time that you can manage it and try that. And if it doesn't work perfectly, kind of maybe expand it a little bit, or if it's too much, if you find yourself doing other things, thinking about other things, shrink it down. And that's really kind of gotten me through it.
I like that suggestion. And I actually have the Pomodoro app on my phone, and I think I've opened it one time since I did it.
Really?
So I always start with, I'm totally going to do this. And then I just never do.
I've seen a lot of people talk about it.
What is the Pomodoro thing?
Yeah, there's a whole thing on it. I haven't actually read anything about it. I've just seen it like everywhere.
Yeah, it's basically about setting a timer for 25 minutes where you're going to be uber focused and you work those 25 minutes and then you take like a 5-minute break. Or, you know, I don't think it necessarily has to be 25 minutes. Could be wrong.
Okay.
But it's exactly what RJ's talking about, where like you limit the time you have to do something, you're time boxing it.
Jared says it's 25 minutes heads down, sprint, then 5-minute break. So it's everything in 30-minute chunks, I guess.
Yeah.
But wow, it's like those Google Speedy meetings.
Yeah.
Which are nice. See, that's another thing. That's what, if you think about it, if you move it out into the agile environment, right? Exactly what we're talking about. Pull it out, and I know we're kind of going a little bit over on time, but if you pull it out a little bit and make it more abstract, that's exactly what people are talking about in stand-ups. You're supposed to give your like I forget the actual wording, but what I did yesterday, what I'm going to do today, and if I need any help, basically with anything. And you're supposed to do it quickly. And a lot of people get into that situation. They go, oh, well, you know, and then they go into a whole 50-minute episode about everything that happened yesterday and what they had for lunch and who they saw after work and what they watched at home. And it's like, no, give me the 5-second as quickly as you possibly can. Give it to me because you got 10 seconds. Go.
Well, that's why it's like that's why it's supposed to be called a stand up. Everybody's supposed to stand up because nobody wants to stand there for a freaking hour, right? It's like it's supposed to kind of add that urgency. Well, and when you're doing it remotely, a lot of your people are sitting down at their desk anyway. I actually do try to stand up for my desks. Rita Leverett was in our channel just a moment ago. I don't know if she's still in there, but mentioned, and this one I'm really curious about. When you're a distributed team, somebody's on the East Coast, somebody's on the West Coast, right? There's a 3-hour time difference, I believe that is. Like how
me and Jeffrey.
Exactly. So how are you and Jeffrey dealing with that? Or is one of you, do you take turns being like, okay, I'll get up early, or nope, I'll stay on work late? Or do you just try to focus everything in between those 3-hour windows where you're either on or not on at work? Do you try to focus that communication in the middle?
So we usually at the end of the day, we usually have, any of our open items. We'll ask if there's anything else that's left, see if there's anything else that we need to follow up on, and we'll know what we have for our open items and action items. And Jeff will start on those usually when he gets in the morning, since he's East Coast. And then when I sign online, I check in to see how it's going. I'll work on mine after he signs offline. It's not like we're losing any time because we've got those three hours. They're just at different times. Mine's when he's signing off. His is when I'm, sleeping in the morning. But yeah, and then we catch up in the morning, and then we've got our meetings during the morning Pacific time. Most of the time.
You're not finding really any obstacles or issues there. Like the only thing I'll find is that I get booked a lot of meetings over lunch, so I eat lunch at that time. Yeah. So Rita's saying her stand-ups are at noon and she can't eat lunch. I eat lunch right there and I'll just mute myself. I'll be like, sorry, if y'all going to book me for a meeting at lunchtime, I'm going to eat in front of you. I
have meetings at lunch a lot. Yeah, that's okay. I'll either just have my lunch a little bit early or have it a little bit late. Sometimes I eat on the phone. Yeah. I'll go on mute when I'm chewing. I apologize. I warn them that I'm going to be doing it, especially if it's something noisy like cookies. Tell them in advance.
I will say, yes, if you're going to eat while you're in a meeting, make sure you mute yourself, especially if you're eating like Lay's potato chips and all you hear is crinkle, crinkle, crank, crank, crinkle, crank. The
worst is the bag. The worst is the bag.
That bag. It's like being on the phone with somebody who's chewing like bubble yum, like, that smackiness. It's like, it makes you, oh yeah. So yeah, if you are going to eat, and I highly recommend and fully support eating during a meeting, because it's just one of the realities of having a distributed remote team. And
don't skip lunch. Don't skip it. Don't skip. You got to eat, man. You got to eat. So don't skip it under any circumstances. It's not cool. Make sure to eat your lunch. It's a very important meal. You work hard all morning, and then you still got hours left to go.
Yep.
All right. I know we're over, so I am going to resist from saying more stuff, but these are actually a huge topic, and the beauty of the live show is that we do kind of have this organic thing. We started out really just wanted to talk about communication, and while that was the overall umbrella, we were into a lot of things there. So
yeah, and we got a lot of feedback in the chat, which is nice. I like when we get
we got our tools in.
We got our tools.
Sorry, we got the tools in.
We totally
checkbox one.
That's fair, man. That's fair.
Yeah. And with that, I'm hoping that Brian is still kind of hanging out there, because as soon as I bump us, he's got to turn us off, right?
So he's out there.
Anybody have anything we want to add before the end of the thing? If we, our next show would be the week of Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. So
if we miss that week, then we'll just be back on track because we missed Dreamforce week. So if we skip that week,
So okay, I know that we're over, and I said I would shut up, but somebody says, Jared's like, GoToMeeting or Zoom, and I will say that I am becoming a huge fan of Zoom.
I love Zoom.
I'm not a big fan of GoToMeeting, but
so Zoom can have the side-by-side screens.
Yeah,
I love that. Plus, you can have the Brady Bunch view.
That's even more fun. I just wish everybody had the same Brady Bunch view, so you knew who was looking at who. And then
like on Ohana Coffee, it gets so confusing.
Yeah, but I think we say Zoom is the winner with that one. And with that, I am gonna bump us out, and nobody's gonna tempt me to say more. I'm done.